Thank you. I just finished our individual meetings with the players, and it was very enlightening. The players were extremely positive, loved the atmosphere in the locker room. They raved about their teammates and how great teammates they had, and they enjoyed being around. And said the same thing about the coaching staff. And it's hard to believe you had 22 wins and the guys are as positive as they are. But I think the understanding is that the reality of our guys is they know the situation. They know that they're young players in the league, and they're guys that are infant in their careers right now. And I have to admit that, I said, as you have followed us all year, coming into practice every day, their attitudes were fantastic. They wanted to get better. They know that they have something to prove, and they know the situation that we're in here. Our season overall started with, a lot of speculation that we were going to be one of the worst teams in the East, and our guys, kind of rallied around that. And I think when we started off, I think by December 4th, we were 8-11, and we had surprised a lot of people. And then, unfortunately, a team as we were, with so little room for error, we got hit with a rash of injuries. And they were injuries that kind of never went away for the rest of the year for us. We lose a guy like Reggie Evans, who was a complimentary, tough guy and a rebounder for us. And one of the things we wanted to get better at was rebounding, and we did. We lose him, and then we lose Jose for a little bit of time. We lose Leandro, and then we lose Kliza, and then Bargnani for stretches. And I think the injuries played a role, and it also changed the direction for which our team had to go. And now a team that was young and infant to start with was now going to rely on those players, and I think that's what ended up happening. We had to go and we had to play guys who probably wouldn't have played as many minutes, but at the same time, we used it as a positive because we developed those players. And I can't say enough about the improvement that each and every one of those guys made. We had so many guys play and achieve career bests in points and rebounds and assists. I think 9 of our 13 guys were better in points. 9 of our 13 players had career highs in assists and career highs in rebounds. And that was an opportunity to play. And I think that for our fans, there was a lot of hope because of the style that we played as well. Our young players were not afraid to push the ball up the floor. And we were number 2 in the NBA in fast break points. We were number 2 in the NBA in points in the paint. And I can't say that we really had a low post presence by anyone, but it was just we spread the floor, we were able to attack the basket. And I think we did all this despite the fact we were 30th in the NBA in field goal percentage from the three-point line. So it was tough to spread defenses out, yet we still found ways to be 8th in the NBA in field goal percentage overall, which, to be in the top third and not be able to spread the floor, there's nobody else in that category. There's nobody else who's in the top 10 who doesn't have that three-point threat, and we didn't have that this year. We weren't as good from the three-point line. So overall, I know it was a disappointing year with only 22 wins, but I like the attitude that our players have, the way that they approach the game. I like the fact that all of our young players got better, and I like the style of play that we have. I like our atmosphere in the locker room. There's camaraderie, there's a good team. They like each other, and they're willing to work for each other, and I think those are good building blocks for what the future holds for us. So,
how do you turn individual skill development into team development?
Well, Doug, I think our biggest issue, I don't think our problem was ever scoring the basketball, and I think we do need to address some things offensively, but the fact that we're 8th in field goal percentage is a real positive. Obviously, our biggest issue was at the defensive end of the floor. And there's a couple things that go into being a good defensive team. And one is a system, and 2 is the individual players. I take responsibility for the system, and we changed it drastically this year because we had to. Because of the injury situation, we had to make changes all the time. The other thing with making changes in our system is that you want your young players to learn how to play different styles. And we had to find out what our guys were best at. On a guy like Amir Johnson and Ed Davis, who we didn't have for the first part of the year when we put the system in, are guys that can be up on screens. They can get up there. Other guys are guys that have to stay back and protect in the paint a little bit better. I think we started to figure out our system later in the year with the personnel, but it's something that has to be tweaked. The other part of it is the players. And when I say the players, everybody has to be better defensively at keeping guys in front of them. But there's something that goes along with that. If we look, as we have throughout most of the year, the top 5 teams defensively in the NBA are kind of models for us, teams that we want to be like. And you look at, Chicago, and you look at Orlando, the Los Angeles Lakers. Who else is in that group? Boston. Lakers, Magic, Heat, Bulls. All right? The one common thing that they have, despite guys like Noah and Deng, who are defensive guys, despite a guy like Howard, who's a defensive presence for the Orlando Magic, and Kobe, Artest, and Bynum are guys that intimidate at the defensive end for the Lakers. But the other thing that those guys have is 26, 45, 63, 53, and 36 years of experience in their starting lineup. And we went with 16 years of experience in our starting lineup. So it comes with understanding, and we talked to our guys today about that. DeMar playing against, pick a guy, Kevin Durant. If he does it the first 2 times, it's about learning. And the first 4 times is about learning. But when you get the experience of doing it over and over again, it doesn't matter how many clips you show them. It doesn't matter how many times you tell him he's going to do one dribble left and pull up in one dribble, and when he goes to his right, he's going to go all the way to the basket. It's about being out there on the floor in front of 18,000 people trying to figure out how to stop this guy and how to not get embarrassed. And again, we're very young in that respect. And our guys have to figure out, and the only way to do it is to go through what we did this year, to get beat by guys, to get embarrassed by guys. We talked today to Ed Davis about last night playing against an old vet in Juwan Howard. And he said, I didn't realize, I know he's an older player, I didn't realize how strong he was. And that was our point today to Ed, was he's got to get stronger. Our guys have to go through that experience of getting in, being better, playing against these guys, going through the experience, and the only way to do it is by doing what we did this year, was to roll them out and play them against those guys.
There will be some player changes, but do you think that this group that's assembled could be a good defensive team just with the added experience?
They will get better because of the experience, but to get better drastically the way that we have to, we'll have to have a better system in place and better defensive players. Yes. But these guys are not opposed to doing the work. It's a toughness factor. It's a strength issue. We talked to every one of our guys today about getting stronger. DeMar has to get stronger. When DeMar played against physical players, he was less effective. Amir, when he went against physical players, he was less effective. Ed Davis obviously has to get stronger. Every one of our guys, the stronger you get. We look, when we watch our team roll out and when we're lined up, I know we're infant in our years of experience, but we're also very infant when you look at us standing beside teams. We look like the JV team sometimes. We're beside these bigger, stronger guys. Well, they're 10 years older, and they've been in the weight room, and they've been through the NBA experience, and they know that strength is going to be a factor. And we have to get better at that. We have to get bigger. We have to get stronger.
Does that include getting a natural center, Jay, like a 5 who can do some of the dirty work and things that, allowing Bargnani and guys like that to do their thing?
I think ideally something like that, but I'm not going to speculate on where we need to go as far as that goes. All I can say is that the way things transpired this year, had we gone out and just maybe overachieved and had 10 more wins, we wouldn't be in the position we are right now to have a very good draft pick coming our way. We wouldn't be in the position where we are right now to have money under the salary cap and to change. And the face of this franchise, with the development of our young players, could change drastically overnight. And through a draft pick and through free agency, and the development of our young players and us figuring out which ones to keep and which ones to potentially use as trade possibilities if something was to come up. The face of this franchise could change drastically, and I think it's on par to make the right move.
Do you want to be part of that future, Jay?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I don't think anybody wants to, raise kids for 2 years and then give them up for adoption, right? I think we have a great thing going with the young players, with their attitude, with the way that they respond to the coaches, with the way our coaches respond to them, and I want to be part of that, and I grow with these players. I think we know them better than anybody else. We know who they are, where they are in their careers, and what it's going to take for them to get over the hump.
Have you spoken to Brian about that?
Pretty much every day. Yeah, I think Brian and I are on the same page. Our plan, our plan changed when we had the injuries this year, and it was about playing the younger players and developing them, and figuring out where we were going to be in the draft, and having money to go out and build and augment around the young pieces that we have. And I think we're right on task, and we followed the plan to perfection.
Has he given any indication about that option during the contract? And when will you have that discussion with him?
I think that there are too many other things going on, in this organization right now to be worried about that. And, I think the number one thing for us to do as a staff is to get as caught up as we possibly can with the draft. We know a bunch of the players, but we got to do a little bit more research on all of them and get caught up in that so that we can help this organization make the right choice as far as the draft comes. And for us, it's still business as usual. The only thing different now is there's no games. Our goal today is to meet with the players and find ways to help get them better. Some of the players are still going to be here. We're still going to be working with them. Some of the players have asked for coaches to go visit them so that they can get better before the July 1st date and maximize the amount of time. That's the one thing that amazes me about our guys. They're driven. They want to get better. Nobody's happy with where we are right now, but I think that they see the picture. They see where we are, and they know that we're infant. Our coaches are dedicated right now to go right through until a decision is made. And that's what we plan on doing. It's help this organization keep developing these guys. The only thing we don't have right now is the games, but that can mean that we can spend a lot more time on their individual skills and getting them bigger and stronger and working with them and giving them a plan right up until July 1st.
Andrea basically admitted that one of the things that he needs to work on is the focus aspect of the game, both defensively and rebounding. In terms of him improving, how does a guy implement a little bit more focus? How do you tell someone you need to be more focused and have that click?
Well, I think you tell him, you show him, and we started doing those things this year, but Andrea was in a different role this year. Being the primary scorer and being the go-to guy, he's got to be, and we talked today, he understands he's got to get better at the defensive end as far as his help side and being aware and being an intimidator back there. The good teams, the teams that I mentioned, every one of them has a dominant guy in the back there. All right? There's Noah for Chicago. There's Dwight Howard in Orlando. Bynum anchors the back. Garnett anchors the back. The good teams have that anchor back there. He's got to become that for us. And is it asking a home run hitter to bunt? Possibly. But he's got to have that part of his game, and he's got to add that to us if we're going to be successful. And part of the conversation with him today was, he can find a way to score 20 points, but do you want to score 20 points and have 22 wins? And he doesn't. So that, hopefully that becomes the motivation that gets him. And if not, then I think the young players that have started to develop behind him are going to start eating into playing time. And I think playing time is probably one of the biggest motivators in this league.
He sort of said, though, he sees himself as a 4, so what if he's not?
If he sees them?
He sees himself as a 4, not a 5, though, so what if that's... You need him to grow into that role, but that's not how he sees himself. That's maybe not where he's best suited. So.
Well, I think if we're talking about Andrea, I think he is a 5 defensively. He's not offensively. Right? Let's go back a year when Chris Bosh was here. Chris Bosh played in the low block. And you could arguably say he was the post-up presence, and Andrea kept the floor lifted so that he could have room to move. Even this year with Amir set screens and was the guy rolling to the basket and looking for post-ups more than Andrea, because Andrea was extending the defense. Although Andrea did get better at posting up. His ability at 7-1 is going to be to guard down on the low block, and I think Andrea is a good on-ball defender. It's the off-ball defending and the ability to chase down and get rebounds and secure the rebound that is the thing that we want him to get better at.
Okay, the playoffs are obviously a goal next year, but even the most casual NBA fan would look at this right now, and never mind the Spurs and the Lakers and all those good teams in the West, but just in the East,
Yep.
the top four and all the big threes that are forming, and even teams like Jersey and Philly, they're getting better. It seems Indiana, is going to make the playoffs. A casual fan would say the Raptors have no shot. How do you react to that?
Well, I think, that we're not far away. I mean, like I said, the draft and free agency can change things overnight, as it did for some of the teams that you mentioned. We are building from within. That's the directive that we decided to go with. It's the plan that we've decided. We've got good young players. We're going to build with those guys. We saw improvement in almost everybody this year. All of our young guys got better, to the point where DeMar is a guy that is being mentioned now as one of the most improved in the NBA. I don't know if he'll get it, but to be mentioned in that is going to be one of the things that's going to give him respect next year, and maybe more calls, because he did take the ball to the basket a whole lot better. Amir got better. James Johnson was a pleasant surprise and a great pickup for, in exchange, what would be now, I guess, the 28th pick. I mean, here's a guy I would much rather have than the 28th pick right now, because we know what he is, and he can handle, and he can defend, and he can rebound. He does have to, stay focused a little bit more. But our young core players, Ed Davis, who had led our team in double-doubles, we're going to build through our players right now. And is the landscape of the NBA going to change? Quite possibly it could, and we'll know a lot more by the next time we start playing games. But I would say that we're not done. I mean, we're going to have a draft pick, and we're going to have free agency to change our team. If you look at our team right now, I would say, yeah, it's tough and it's growing pains, and we're growing through these young guys. But we've also put ourselves in a position, because of the year that we had, where a draft pick and free agency will change.
How much does July 1st increase the urgency to, like you said, players have asked coaches to see them, but how much does it increase the urgency for that to happen, maybe at a more intense rate than it has in the past?
Well, significantly. I mean, in the past, we used July and August for summer league and visitations to the players to get them and to work with them. Now it's going to start. Well, we would probably, for some guys, it's starting tomorrow, and some guys it's going to be a week off to rest some of the injuries that we've had, and some of our guys are going to be participating with national teams. So, we don't have to worry about them getting coaching and getting better in their off season. So, it's definitely accelerated because of that. And we have to make sure that we give them a plan to follow. The last thing we talked to our guys about today was the fact that we can't have anything that happens because of us not being able to contact them after July 1 affect the development that they've achieved to this point so far. We want to keep them working. We want to keep working with them, and we want to find a way to keep having them all get better.
Yeah, I know there's only so much you can say, but going back to what's happening with ownership and with Brian's contract status and everything else, I mean, how much does that potentially derail everything you've talked about in terms of building the young core, the plan that's in place, and the money to spend, et cetera? I mean, it could be a new GM who brings in a new coach. It could be a new GM who keeps you as coach. It could be a different GM, a different coach. I mean, there's so much going on, and it's all going to happen in 8 weeks leading up to the draft and leading up to July 1st.
All right. I'm going to spend more time answering this question than I do thinking about what you just said. Okay, how's that for starters? All right. Today is no different than yesterday. I cannot control what is going to happen with my situation, with Brian's situation, with anybody else's situation. I know that I have a job to do, and I'm going to do it. And that is to make these guys get better, become as familiar as I can with the NBA draft and the players that are available, and try to pick the right player to help this team as they move forward. And seriously, that's as much as I've thought about it. You can't worry about things beyond your control. If they're beyond your control, you're wasting your time worrying about them.
So how much better of a coach are you today compared to a year ago this time?
100%. Yeah. I think I got better communicating with players, getting to know the players a lot better on and off the court than I had a year ago. I think a year ago I kind of got sequestered into the coach's room too much, and this year I could say that I know all the players significantly better than I did a year ago. I think the strategizing in and around and trying to find ways to win games with different lineups and with a lineup that was maybe thrown at you 30 minutes before a game helped us. Do I need to get better? Absolutely. Am I willing to keep working at it? Absolutely. But I just think that the stuff that we were presented with this year helped us all become better coaches, and it helped us all find ways to make each and every one of our players a little bit better. And I commend my coaching staff for the job that they did, because they were relentless with our players as far as individual work and what they had to do to get better, breaking down tape, showing them tape, going over it with them. I mean, I think that, you can't have one voice all the time. You have to have a voice, and it's mine that they hear most of the time. But our guys did a great job of dividing up who showed videotape this day. Who was the last guy to talk to Ed Davis about this? Well, Scott, maybe you should talk to him today, because maybe it's a different voice. And why don't we show him videotape instead of just walking through it on the floor today? I mean, we just used every means possible to try to accelerate the development of our guys, and I think our staff did a great job in doing that.
How valuable is Reggie to that kind of process? I mean, the coaches speaking to guys is one thing, but we were talking to Reggie a little bit earlier on. He was talking about his own role as far as being that vocal guy in the locker room. Well,
I think it comes natural for him because he was the oldest guy in the locker room. He was thrown into a situation where a couple of years ago we introduced Reggie to sports nutrition and a new strength and conditioning coach from Europe who he wanted nothing to do with. We bring a nutritionist, and he, in the very first meeting with the nutritionist, sat in the front row and ate candy in front of the nutritionist to prove a point that I'm not buying into this, right? And now you look at Reggie and what he's gone through in the last 2 years, and he has transformed his body to where he will play for another 4 years in this league. And it was because of the sports sciences and the introduction to the stretching and the flexibility stuff that we had done with him, and the strength and conditioning stuff that was never done before, that he had never done before. And when he got hurt, he took all this in. His body fat is lower than it's ever been in his career. His physical conditioning is better than it's ever been in his career. And I congratulated him today because, whether he's with us or not, he earned himself another 4 years at least in this league because of the way that he takes care of his body. And he led by example. I mean, I think players see that. They see how you respond to an injury. They see how you go out and play every night and how the fans appreciate the effort that you give every night. So when a guy like that speaks up in the locker room, our young players need to hear that. That's a model of how to be professional, how to approach the game. Some of our players said to Reggie at one point, "Come on, why don't you shoot the ball a little bit?" And he said, "No, because I understand what my role is. Coach wants me to get us extra possessions, rebound the basketball for us, guard a tough guy, and be physical." And for him to say that to a James Johnson or a DeMar DeRozan or an Ed Davis, who are still trying to identify what their roles are. And to be honest, we as a staff are trying to identify what their roles are as we move forward. And that's why we let them play. We let James Johnson shoot the ball a little bit. We let him dribble the ball up the floor and transition a little bit. We let these guys try to figure out who they are. And in doing that, they will understand and they will grow into a role like the one Reggie has. But to have him be the voice in the locker room and for him to be understanding what his role is, that's more valuable than it is for me to walk into the room and say, "You're a defensive player only, don't ever shoot the basketball, only pass to this guy." They need to hear that from veteran guys who have been around.
Pretty much a reigning endorsement that you'd like to see Reggie come back?
I like Reggie, yes. Yeah, I told him that. I'd like to see him back. I mean, I know that, in this business, things happen. I mean, he could be offered a lot of money to go somewhere else. He could want to play somewhere else. I think he likes the city. I thought he really embraced the role of being a leader for our younger players.
Jay, what was the low point this year for your game, a moment, situation, a bus ride?
I would think that maybe the losing streak that we had, that those 13 games were tough because of the way we lost so many of them. I mean, I think 6 of them were, 8 of the 13 were on the road, and 6 of them were decided by 6 points. And, it's tough because I think you start pressing a little bit, especially when you're a young team. And when you look at, during that stretch, who was out of the lineup for us, it was Reggie missed all 13 of those games. I believe Kleza missed 10 of them, and Barbosa missed 11 of those 13. And when you look at, those are pretty veteran players. Those are guys that have been through the international game. They've been through more NBA seasons than most of our players. And to not have those guys in the lineup at that point, there were a lot of games missed due to injury at that point, and to put it on the young players and to have 6 games decided in that point and really not have a go-to guy, which we were trying to evolve at the time, a guy like who's going to be the guy you give the ball to down the stretch. I think that's where it became tough, because you could see the season starting to slide a little bit during those 13 games, but you could also see the confidence start to waver a little bit. But, again, they never stopped working, and you get the win and you bounce back a little bit. But I would say that was probably the toughest point for us.
Jay, how would you assess the point right now? I mean, in your time here, even from TJ and Jose to Jose and Jarrett to Jared and Jose now, where does the point guard position stand for this team?
I think it's still pretty good. We got 2 very good players. I mean, Jose, you look at his year, he had career highs in like different categories. Steals, he's still number 2 in the NBA in assist to turnover. He had a number of games where he had 19 assists and 16 assists and 17 assists. Shares the ball extremely well. His defense was better. As I mentioned, assists were at all-time high. The one thing, he didn't shoot the ball the same way, and I think a lot of that has to do with the confidence in the hamstring. But Jared Bayless, I mean, in his last 10 games, I mean, 19 points per game, 5 assists per game, 45% from the three-point line. I mean, we can't ask for any more for that. So I think that we've got 2 players that complement each other. One is a very aggressive defensive player, and Jose was better defensively this year. We still need to get better at that spot, and I think Jared brought that, especially with his opportunity to play.
Jared show enough that he could be given more of a role on a full-time basis if need be?
I think so. I think a lot has to be, determined next year and how much more he develops. And I think, Jared's a hard worker. He's, in his meeting today, his plan to get better this summer. I want to improve everything. I don't, not just my shot, not just this, passing the ball. I want to be a bit better at this. And he's got a drive to become better. And I think we forget the guy's 22 years old. I mean, he's so young, and he's got great future ahead of him. And we're going to grow with some of the mistakes that he makes. But yeah, he showed that he can be on the floor and help this basketball team for sure.
Is it? I mean, I don't really know how to phrase this, but he also said the same sort of thing. He wants to get better at everything. Mm-hmm. Is it much more difficult when you have a broad statement like that as opposed to trying improving on one or 2 aspects of the game?
Well, I helped him today a little bit with that. It's a good question, Zach. One of the things that I did at university all the time, because I said, if you just go play pickup ball, you're gonna do the same things over and over again. I said, so on Tuesdays, when you go play this year, on Tuesdays, you don't tell anybody else in the gym, all right? But all you're gonna do is pass. So but you can't tell anybody, because if you come down looking to pass, they're going to figure you out. So you got to drive the ball to the basket like you normally would, but before you get there, you got to find somebody open on the team. And I said, that's how you get better at passing. If you just go play pickup basketball, you're going to keep doing the same stuff over and over and get infinitely better at all those things. If you want to really accelerate how much better you're going to get, take a day and dedicate yourself to becoming better that day at one specific thing. I said on Thursday when you go into the gym, you look